When I first saw him, he was just a dog standing at the gate, a quiet shape in the rain, holding something in his mouth. But when I stepped closer, I saw what it was. A necklace, rusted, familiar, the same one my mother had worn the night she disappeared. Welcome to Saved by Tales. Before we begin this powerful story of loyalty, family, and the quiet clues dogs carry with them, tell me in the comments, if you had a dog right now, what would you name him or her? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, hit like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. The rain had been falling for 3 days straight. Ellie stood by the window, chin resting on her arms, watching gray clouds curl over the foster home's yard. The garden was flooded, puddles swallowing up the cracked stones and patches of grass. She had been there for 2 months now. 8 years old, 2 suitcases, no word spoken unless necessary. Most of the other kids ignored her. Mrs. Carter, the house mother, said that was because Ellie was too quiet. But Ellie knew it wasn't about being quiet. It was about being the one who didn't belong. That night, as dinner ended, Ellie washed her plate like always. She caught a movement out of the corner of her eye, a shadow just beyond the gate. Mrs. Carter was on the phone, back turned. Ellie dried her hands slowly, slipped on her shoes, opened the back door. The rain was colder than she expected. She stepped outside, pulled her hoodie up, and walked to the rusted garden gate. That's when she saw him. A dog, big, dark gray and black, standing perfectly still at the gate. His fur was soaked, his paws mud-covered. But what caught Ellie's eyes wasn't the size of him, it was what he carried. A necklace, dangling from his mouth by its chain, old, rusted, a round locket attached to it. Ellie froze. Her heart beat so hard she could barely breathe. Because she knew that necklace. She knew it like she knew her own name. It had been her mother's. She stepped closer. The dog didn't move. He didn't growl. He didn't bark. He just looked at her, amber eyes steady, waiting. Slowly Ellie reached through the bars of the gate. Her fingers brushed the cold metal of the locket. The dog let it drop gently into her palm. Then, just as quietly as he had appeared, he turned, walked back down the flooded road, and disappeared into the rain. Ellie stood there long after he was gone, her fingers clenched tight around the locket, memories she'd buried too deep rising all at once. Her mother's voice, her mother's hands fastening that necklace around her neck, the night her mother didn't come back. Back inside, Ellie wiped the locket clean. The chain was rusted, but the locket itself still opened. She pressed the catch gently. It popped open with a soft click. Inside was a photo, her mother, smiling, and a second thing, a folded scrap of paper. Her hands trembling, Ellie pulled it out. On it, written in faded ink, "Find me where the river bends." Her heart stopped, because she knew exactly what that meant. The river, the one behind the old part of town, the one her mother used to walk by every Sunday, until the night she disappeared. Ellie didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the locket on her nightstand, the paper unfolded beside it, waiting, listening, hoping the dog would come back. The morning after the rain stopped, Ellie slipped out before breakfast. The necklace was hidden under her sweater, cold against her skin. She walked along the old road past the edge of the village, her small sneakers splashing in leftover puddles. The sun was rising through the clouds in slanted beams, making everything look golden and gray at once. By the time she reached the bend in the river, her hands were shaking, not from the cold, from what she might find. The river wasn't wide, but it moved fast. Deep, dark water curving sharply around a bank of old willow trees. Her mother had loved that spot, and now Ellie stood there again, 8 years old and completely alone. At least she thought she was alone, until she saw him, the dog, sitting beneath the largest willow, just as silent as before. The locket she'd found last night, still tucked in her pocket. "Did you bring me here?" Ellie whispered. The dog didn't move, his head tilted slightly, amber eyes calm, and then he stood, turned, and padded slowly along the riverbank, not rushing, not barking, waiting for her to follow. Ellie did. They walked together for almost an hour, through mud, through grass, past rusted fences, and half-forgotten paths, until they reached something Ellie had never seen before. An old building, brick, overgrown with ivy, A metal sign hung crooked over the door. Riverside Storage, closed since 2008. Ellie's heart pounded. The dog sat down in front of the door. His tail brushed the ground once, like a signal. Ellie stepped forward. The door wasn't locked. It groaned open under her hand, the hinges screaming. Inside smelled of dust and wet wood. Rows of metal shelves lined the room. Boxes, old tools, and something else. A shape at the far end. A table. And on that table, a photograph. Ellie crept closer. The photograph was old, faded, but she knew the face. Her mother. Her breath caught. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. Beneath the photo was a small leather notebook. She opened it carefully. Inside were pages filled with writing, her mother's handwriting. She turned to the first page. If someone finds this, my name is Marissa West. I'm leaving this here because I don't know if I'll make it back, but I need someone to know the truth. Ellie's vision blurred. Her mother had been here, alive, leaving a message. But where was she now? Behind her, the dog barked. Just once. A short, sharp sound. Ellie turned. The dog stood in front of a shelf now, pawing gently at the base, like he wanted her to look there. She knelt down, brushed aside dust and debris, and found a box. Inside, her mother's jacket, faded blue, and something else. A police badge. Ellie stared. What was her mother doing with that? Why had she never said anything? She turned back to the dog, whispering, "Who are you really?" He didn't answer, just sat back down, still waiting. Ellie didn't go straight back to the foster home. Instead, she sat by the river with the notebook on her lap, the dog lying beside her like he'd been there all along. She flipped through page after page. Her mother's words filled them. They told me to keep quiet, but I couldn't. I had to tell someone. That's why I left. If you find this, please take care of Ellie. Ellie wiped her face with her sleeve. Her mother hadn't just vanished. She'd left because someone wanted her to. That night, Ellie hid the notebook and necklace under her bed. She said nothing to Mrs. Carter, nothing to the other kids, but her mind was racing. Her mother hadn't been just her mother. She'd been someone else too. The next morning, Ellie went to the village library. There was a dusty corner with old local newspapers on microfilm. She searched through headline after headline, and then she saw it. Local detective Marissa West missing, believed dead. Detective. Her mother had been a detective. No one had ever told her. That afternoon, Ellie sat outside again. The dog was there, waiting as always. "I know now," she whispered. "You knew her. You were her dog." His ears twitched. Her heart squeezed tight in her chest. "You're not just a stray, are you? You stayed because I'm hers." The dog stepped closer. Gently, quietly, he pressed his head against her hand. That evening, Ellie took the notebook to the police. She didn't tell Mrs. Carter. She walked straight into the station, the dog beside her, and held it out. "This was my mom's." The officer behind the desk frowned. "Where did you get that?" Ellie took a deep breath and told him everything. The necklace, the river, the old storage building, her mother's name. For a long time, no one said anything. Then the officer picked up the phone, and everything started moving fast. That night, detectives came to the foster home. They searched the storage building. They found more than Ellie ever expected. Documents, photos, names, proof her mother had been working on something big, a case that had made her disappear. And all along, the only witness left had been a dog. Ellie didn't go back to the foster home after that. Social services placed her somewhere new, but she didn't care. As long as the dog could come too. She named him Copper, for the color of his eyes, and because in a way, he'd been a detective too. Months passed. The police reopened Marissa West's case. Her name was cleared in the news. No longer a missing person. Now remembered as a detective who had sacrificed everything to protect her daughter. Ellie moved in with a new family. A quiet house with a real bedroom and warm lights in the windows. But wherever she went, Copper was with her. Every morning they walked by the river together. Every evening they sat under the willow tree where it had all started. One afternoon, as the sun set gold and quiet across the water, a letter arrived in the mail. It was addressed to Ellie. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, in familiar handwriting. "For Ellie, if you're reading this, it means I did what I had to do. Never forget who you are. And never forget the ones we love always find their way back to us. Mom." Ellie pressed her face into Copper's fur. For the first time since she could remember, she let herself cry. Not because she was lost, but because she'd been found. The next day, Ellie stood in front of the old bridge in town. A plaque had been placed there now, in memory of Detective Marissa West, and the dog who never left her daughter's side. Copper stood beside her, tail still, eyes steady. Ellie knelt down and whispered, "You can rest now. We both can." For once, Copper didn't move right away, but then his tail thumped, slow and certain, and together, they turned toward home.